Just what have you thought about all the outpour of support you've gotten since the surgery? I know you've gotten a lot of cards and things like that.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. Um, you know, it's it it's been people from all over the world that have sent us letters. There's people from London, Singapore, people from Australia, New Zealand, all the way to Hawaii, and then got some letters from Japan. So, it's not just, the fans that are, watching us play football, but I mean, just, I guess, everyone outside of the SEC. And I've had a lot of head coaches from, teams that we've played, get in contact with, us too, and wishing us well. So it's been really awesome.
First of all, Tua, thanks for coming today. Um, Two quick ones, really. One, are you considering any options other than the two obvious options for your future? And what conversations have you had with Coach Saban about that?
Yeah, well, I've had conversations with Coach Saban, and kind of what I said the last time, on TV with Kirk Herbstreit, is pretty much the same thing Coach Saban told me, and those are the two things that I felt I needed to take into consideration. And it's something I still need to sit down and talk to about with my family. Haven't really had that opportunity because of the rehab that I need to go through, and then I'm still trying to finish up my school here. So.
First off, did you have a timetable for when you want to make that decision?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't. I've said this before. The decision could be tomorrow. Decision could be on the 20th, when the deadline is. So anytime between that, I'll end up making my decision.
And secondly, when the injury occurred, did you realize how serious it was in the moment? Did you realize how badly hurt you were?
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't comprehend anything. I had a concussion at the same time while I was on the ground, and I think my body was just in such a traumatic state that, I mean, I couldn't really feel too much. I just know that, well, from what I can remember, with every little movement I made, on the ground, I mean, I was hurting. That's all I could remember.
Two questions for you, too. First of all, whether it's here or NFL, is your plan and expectation to play football this coming season, next season?
Yeah, I mean, I want to play. I mean, anytime. I've played hurt many times. Over the course of 2 years that I've been the starter here. But I'd like to say this is just a totally different situation. This is a unique situation. This isn't something that I can rush. If I want to play to my full potential, I know that I can't just come back and play on it as if it were my ankle. So it's just something that I need to take into consideration. And I think a lot of what you just said, me wanting to play, I think a lot of that has to go into my decision making too, as to whether I stay or leave.
And the second question, so I know you talked the other day just about the pros and cons of staying in school and potentially making the move to the NFL also. Let's say once you get your feedback, the feedback's that it looks like you're still a top 10, top 15 draft pick. If that's the case, like top 10, top 15, worst case scenario, would it be tough to pass that up?
Yeah, I think that'd be tough to pass up. But I think there's a lot more to it than that in some aspects. I don't want to say too much, because I guess what me and my family talk about. They kind of want it to be just with me and my family, so that's all I can say about that.
You mentioned just kind of the uncertainty, even with your condition right now. The doctors, they don't know yet whether or not what your future holds. How difficult is that to kind of go through, just not even knowing right now?
Well, I firmly believe in the Bible, and the Bible says, you walk by faith and not by sight. So, I mean, that's pretty much what I'm holding on to. Just trust in the good Lord, and He's the best doctor for me and what I believe in. And I believe that all these guys that I'm surrounded with, are athletic trainers. You got Jeff Allen, Ryan Vicknair, Jeremy Gazelle, all these other guys that are just very, very helpful, and who have been helpful to with me and my rehabbing process throughout the years. And I feel this is something that is bigger than me, and I feel like I'll still be able to come back, 100%, and be able to play to the capability that I know I'm able to play at.
John, did you have one? Here. Questions? Mike over there.
Given your experience with this injury, but also knowing your competitive spirit to want to be out there, what would be your message to any of your teammates who are thinking of not playing in a bowl game and trying to stay healthy, if there are any of those?
Well, for me, I think it's different. With a lot of the guys that are, draft eligible, you can't really tell them, what they should or shouldn't do. I think the best thing for me as a teammate, would be to support them in whatever the decision they decide to make. It's their choice, and they've worked hard enough, and they've worked, long enough to get to where they're at, in their life. And if they decide to not play, to sit out, I think that's a decision they need to sit down with coach and make. And I think the best thing that I can do and the rest of our teammates can do is support them with that decision.
Tua, real quickly, and you mentioned this the other day, but how tough watching from the sidelines on Saturday? What were your emotions?
Yeah, well, it's really tough being able to watch your guys go out there and play and not be able to do, anything to help them. The only thing that I could do was just try to encourage them, but it hurts, But at the same time, we still had an opportunity to win the game. We've been brought back. I think Mac Jones did a tremendous job. He fought through adversity, and I think that was the biggest question for everyone, is, how would he do despite adversity? And I think he did a tremendous job, and that's probably the only thing that I could have done is just support them, and I didn't go to practice that week. Not just because, I had to get done with rehab and whatnot, but it's pretty hard, playing with these guys for about 3 years, and then, you get hurt, and you go to practice, and the only thing you can do is watch. You can't really do too much else. So.
Yeah, had two for you too. First off, what is your rehab schedule like? How much are you able to do now, and how much time is it?
Yeah, well, we went to do our rehab. Well, we did our first rehab in Birmingham yesterday, and they were surprised with the amount of movement we could do with resistance, rotating the leg out, kind of bringing it back in against resistance, and then being able to lift the leg up. And then just when I come over here, to get treatment, they do ultrasounds. They just try to do everything they can to, get the blood circulating down there. And, just the normal things that they would do if, I injured my ankle. So.
And regardless of timetable, how confident have the doctors been in what they've said to you that you will, they believe you will play regardless of when, that you'll be your old self?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd say I'd be the same again, because there's metal in here now, and I lose some rotation inward, and so I won't be able to kind of twist it as much inward and whatnot, but I wouldn't need that as much. When you're running, you're usually always opening up your hip, right, or if it was left, left. So with what the doctors have said, they said, they expect a full recovery. I'd be able to go out there and play football again at 100%. It's just won't be able to rotate it internally the same way.
Chris, just a couple more. I'll get you Tony next. Could you? Oh, sorry. In terms of both the injury and then the decision, could you talk a little bit about people who have reached out to you and people that you've reached out to kind of pick their brains?
Say that again, please.
In terms of the injury, who you've been talking to?
Well, I mean, I've been talking to my doctor. I've had the opportunity to talk to Bo Jackson. He gave me some insight, on not trying to rush the process, and trying to get back. People say that, our situations are similar, but they're two totally different situations with our hips. And then I had the opportunity to talk to him at the game, before Auburn. It was a good conversation, about the same thing, and just looking more so at the longevity of playing, if I do make that decision, so.
Yeah, you've mentioned just how close you are with the your freshman class, and just have you had a chance to sit back and reflect with them, and then I guess kind of talk about all y'all's features, because you're all in a little bit in the same boat.
Yeah, I don't know, the reflecting part. I don't think we've had much time to just sit down and reflect. Everything just moves so fast around here. We've got to talk to a couple of guys in our class. Well, I've got to talk to a couple of guys in our class, try to see what their thoughts are on either staying or leaving. And it's the same answer you get. It's, man, I still got to talk to my parents, still got to talk to my family about it. And they're just continuing to ask, like Coach and all these other guys that they can ask, to get in like advice, on whether or not it's good for them to stay or leave.
Tua, obviously, there's been a lot of speculation in the national media about the decision coming up for you. Is there anything you would like to say in your own words about how big of a decision it is for you and how rough it'll be?
Yeah, well, this is probably going to be the biggest decision of my life. This is where I seek advice from, what I believe, and it's where I seek advice from my parents. But truly, at the end of the day, the decision comes down to me, whether I feel like it's right for me to stay, whether it's right for me to go. I mean, it's just a really, really big decision, man, and everybody just wants to know. So that's what makes it even bigger, I'd say.